first-person controller and a little bit on mass placing of trees and their lack of colliders. First of all, the first-person controller. First-person controller. Make sure you don't get the first-person controls. Get first-person controller. Drag it on. One thing that often happens when you drag it on is that you're below the terrain surface, and so you'll sink. Right now, if we play this, it'll probably happen that we sink, right, because it's placed perfectly in the middle where we dragged it, but if I press F to focus in on it, first person controller, over here, F. We don't want it perfectly placed in the center, we want it to be above the terrain. So we go to W and move it up 50%. So now it is exactly over, and so when it falls out a little bit, it'll be caught by the collision with the terrain. Oh, it wasn't up high enough. We'll try it again. It looked like it was above, but not quite. Play it. And there we go. There's that grass you can see from before. The next thing well, I guess we better get rid of this. Whenever you have another camera, like we had, and you add in a first-person controller or third-person controller, it itself will have a camera. And so there are actually right now 2 audio listeners, and we don't want there to be 2 audio listeners active at the same time. An audio listener is just a place which listens to the sounds from a certain place. So that place right now that moves around is the first-person controller, and that is indeed the audio listener that we want. We don't want the other stationary main camera's audio listener, so we can either disable it, or we could even delete the whole camera. We don't need it anymore, but I'll leave it there for now since it was part of the original tutorial. So we're just going to completely remove the component on it, which is an audio listener. And so that'll get rid of that error message. But then the other thing that you're probably going to be curious about is, how do I make these mass-placed trees to be something that I can crash into, that they have a collider?